Hey everyone, James Azar here with CyberHub Engage. Welcome to today's podcast, Cyber and Life Edition under COVID-19. This was supposed to be an episode we were going to air on Friday, but due to technical difficulties beyond my personal control, I'm kidding, it was all my fault. Trying to be a director while simultaneously also running the podcast, and I'm learning. I've redone our set now so I can make things so much better. I hope you guys love our new set here. I worked on it last night tirelessly until I got it done. I am James Azar. We are with the great Dr. Nigel Smart. Oh, sorry, I have ruined the shot here. There we go. Dr. Nigel Smart. I gotta get out. Get out. I'm having a little issue. Your name tag's like right over my face.
Well, it's better than over my face than it was last time.
There we go. We're fine now, folks. We're fine now. For those watching on video, first time director trying to do things on my own with with quarantine. I don't have Micah here. Typically, Micah's like boop, 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 boop. Not anymore. Nigel Smart, welcome.
Welcome. It's nice to do this again.
Elbow bump.
Elbow again, yeah.
We did that about a month ago at RSA. It's been a month since I've seen you at RSA. Can you believe that?
It's been a month. It's been a hectic month. It's been very different. We've seen a lot of changes, but hopefully everybody out there is well.
You know, I know everyone's out there is okay because people are starting to get used to and enjoying the fact that they don't have to sit in traffic to get to work anymore. They don't have to just have those boring water cooler conversations. People are far more effective. Like, yeah. I feel like my efficiency, I've always worked from home, but I feel like before when I jump on calls and it'd be like people in an office setting, the conversation would take so much longer. Now people are just like, I did a LinkedIn Live yesterday with Michael Anaya, and 19 minutes in, his kid just walks in.
Okay.
It was great. It was awesome. We had a kid on the show yesterday. It was great.
On the other hand, people might be wanting to keep the conversations quicker so they can get out because we've got lovely sunshine here. So, you're
Same thing here. Yeah. We have a beautiful sunshine. Kind of looking, we were supposed to do this on Friday and we had a really, really good conversation. And I'm so sorry we couldn't get it out there. The sound just was not what we wanted it to be. But having said that, man, it's been crazy.
Yeah, it's been some really crazy stuff. We've seen attacks with respect to COVID on infrastructure to do with healthcare. We've seen we were talking on Friday, but everyone didn't hear about the mobile phone tracking of people, and that's now going in much more countries since Friday. I mean, we saw today, I think it was Germany and the UK are proposing it, and we also saw today another bug in Windows. You have to update your Windows again because they got a bug with their panels.
That's why I'm on Mac. I updated all my computers. I'm sorry, to the new Catalina. Every time I cough, I have to say not Corona. I'm just drinking really, really cold water, and it's making me cough. I have this very, very big bottle of water that keeps freezing cold water for 24 hours. I hate like European style water, which is like room temperature. Like, no, I don't want room temperature water. That's not my thing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Nigel. Yeah, I know you folks enjoy.
I'm just take it on the chin today.
No, I'm kidding. So, we were talking Friday, and we'll get to the privacy issues with the mobile app tracking and kind of tracking people through their cellular phones. But you brought up a really good point, which is cyber criminals are now really targeting healthcare facilities. Now they've targeted the World Health Organization. We're really seeing an uptick in terms of them trying to use this COVID-19 as a cover to launch attacks. what are some of the things that we need to be paying attention to right now, and as a community really coming together to solve these problems? Because, these healthcare organizations are stretched thin in resources, stretched very thin in funding. So how do we come together and do this?
I think what we've seen across the whole crisis, I think wherever you are, is the best of people and the worst of people. We've seen the worst of people in terms of the idiots queuing very close to each other to get food, and we've also seen the idiots hacking into World Health Organization and also into hospitals and other critical infrastructure. And we've seen people slashing tires of ambulances. I can't remember which country that was in, but I saw a report on that. But we're also seeing the best of people. So, there's a lot of people out there proposing new tech, building apps that will help organizations track things and doing it for free and then giving it over. And I think there's a lot that everyone could do if everyone's stuck at home, and just they can use their skills to do something good.
It's you bring up a really good point, which is we are seeing a lot of good after the 2008 market crash. Airbnb, Uber, a lot of the companies that over the last decade have become mainstream were as a result of the 2018 market crash. What do you see coming out of this one?
I don't know. I think what hopefully what will come out is we have a much more environmentally friendly way of working. We don't have to travel, which is also better on our environment. Not on our environment, on our mental health as well. But I think we can see we've already seen a lot of use of people wanting to be, in some sense, work together more social. We're all a realization that everyone's in this together. Your security, my health, or whatever, depends on everybody else's security and health. And we can maybe use this analogy in cybersecurity going forward. So everyone now gets that my health depends on my neighbor's health. That if I do something that makes my neighbor ill, then I'm likely to get ill. And that's exactly the same in cybersecurity. So maybe we could use this story, this narrative, to actually get over points going forward with respect to cybersecurity.
That's a really good point, because for years we've been talking about how the healthcare industry is undersecured, how there's so many vulnerabilities with a lot of the IoT devices, and cyber criminals are targeting those devices. They're locking them down. They're launching ransomware attacks.
Yeah.
And hospitals are really unprepared for this. Do you feel like this is the next rise in cybersecurity is really going to be in the healthcare field?
So you cut out at the end. The next rise in cybersecurity.
Do you think the next rise in cybersecurity is going to be in the healthcare field? Do you think that's the area where we're going to see things really grow?
A lot more investment in the in the healthcare field. I think it's very clear that almost every country, whether you have whatever your type of healthcare system you prefer, every country's underfunded healthcare provision, especially in terms of community healthcare. Making sure that the community is resilient to shocks like this. I think that's kind of interesting. And I think we'll see a lot of investment there. In terms of just general business, I saw a really cool analogy yesterday. It was a Formula One analogy. I don't know if you're very keen on Formula One. They call out a safety car. And when the safety car comes out, all the cars have to slow up. They bunch up. That means the car at the back's got a chance to catch up. And also some of the teams decided to bring the car in to give a bit more fuel, maybe to change the tires, to adjust the settings somehow. And the entire economy is under a safety car. And we should use this time to kind of prepare for the next spurt, because all the companies are going to be much more bunched together, and the company at the front is no longer got a big advantage because it's no longer so far ahead of everybody else, because everyone's that's bunched up into the same position. I thought that's a great analogy for what's going on.
That's a beautiful analogy. When I was in Israel a few weeks ago, I saw Ford versus Ferrari on the airplane, and I really enjoyed the movie. It's a great movie for people who haven't seen it. It's just it's really an awesome movie. But the other part of that is you're absolutely right. We're almost behind right now, where we're able to slow down a little bit, kind of take this all in, and see what we need to do to be better going forward. I think the other part of this that's really being underlooked and undervalued is everyone's focused on getting the economy going again in 2 to 3 weeks. But what they're missing is we're not going to have a vaccine for at least another 12 months. And flu season come around October. Flu season come around October again at the end of this year, and we don't want to go into quarantine again.
Yeah.
Right? So it's going to take we need to get over this period, but now we need to take the next 6 months, 5 to 6 months, to really build up, because this COVID-19 Wuhan virus isn't going anywhere. It's going to stick around, and we have to get used to this reality. And you're right. I think it's really going to change the way people behave.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really think, we're going to go back to the days of, I think hugging and namaste are going to end up being the clear ways to do it. Because if I hug you, I'm hugging your clothes, right? Unless we're at the beach, then I'm hugging your bare skin. But then that's kind of weird. A little bit. But I think handshakes are gone. I think we're going to get used to the elbow bumps.
But I didn't understand the elbow bump, because we were told at RSA that we should cough
into the elbows and then give it to your...
And I thought about this after, I was going like, really?
Someone didn't think about that all the way through.
No, they didn't. That's kind of like that's localized optimization.
What about just pounding? Remember to pound, the good old dog pound? And that always works. I like the dog pound. But looking at
you must be getting used to the lockdown, because you're a lot more joyful today than you were when we did on Friday.
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm seeing the light at the end of my tunnel. I've been home now for a week and a half. I leave my self quarantine on Friday night, and I gotta tell you, on Friday night there are no bars and nothing open. But I will just roll down the windows in my car and drive around and just be like, woohoo! Yes. The last 2 days of my 14-period self-quarantine, and I've held up pretty well, especially not climbing the walls. But one thing that this COVID-19 did do is a report this morning talks about how the Chinese APTs were actually slowed down by this. Like they were on lockdown too. And so what we saw were cyber criminal gangs, that God willing get this virus. But then we saw the Chinese national army essentially and their cyber workforce go, we're on quarantine, so no hacking campaigns right now. Everyone take a break.
There's always a silver lining to something.
That's always very interesting to watch how that kind of goes down, because the Chinese are like, we're not hacking anyone, but then FireEye and so many companies are all talking about, hey, we're not seeing these APTs operate. We're not seeing the same level of traffic, the same level of attacks launch from there, the sophistication.
There's no. I mean, if you think about it, if you're going to do a phishing attack and everyone's working at home, they're probably just working on their home PC.
Right.
So, you're not going to be, everyone's kind of in a different environment. So the attackers have actually now got to adapt to this different environment. So it's a kind of interesting also.
We're going back to the kid in his mom and dad's basement hacking in his boxers with a bowl of cereal next to him going, Hollywood. COVID-19 has brought back the Hollywood impression of cyber criminals. But I kind of really want to dig in here a bit and talk about privacy. You and I had a very, very interesting conversation around this. It's big. So
this is, I think, going to be the big thing. This is going to be big. We're going to see. I mean, there's two ways this can go. We're going to see that people want to give up their privacy because this goes back to people now realize that their health, whether it's their cyber hygiene or their real hygiene, depends on other people. It's everybody's action. So we're social animals where we need to work in a society. Now, what people may want to do is give up their privacy to enable them to get better benefit, to get better health in terms of protect themselves against disease. But they're going to give up their privacy. And so we're seeing this. We saw in Israel people being tracked within the same room of someone who was in a COVID situation.
But let me correct you there, because I was on a webinar with Idon Or, and I don't know if you know. Do you know who Idon is? One of the great cyber researchers. He actually signed off on Israel's Shield app. It's called Magen in Hebrew, and I was on a webinar a few days ago where when they did their testing of the app, all the data in the app is localized to the app. It's never shared. The only thing, so the only difference is there's two different types of tracking here. So there's Israel. What the Ministry of Health in Israel did is they launched the Migen app, and they said, hey, this will track everywhere you go. It keeps everything on your device. But if you've been exposed to someone who has the COVID-19 virus, we'll let you know. You'll get a notification that says you may have been exposed. Please go but you have to self-report, meaning this doesn't get back to them. It's just a way for you to report where you are. On the other hand, there's the Israeli Shin Bet. And they're using cellular data and banking data to track people's movements. So if you're under quarantine and you violate the quarantine, they can actually prosecute you. And there's now been, we spoke on Friday, it was just getting started. There's now, I think, 34 as of last night when I was reading something on it, 34 criminal charges by the Shin Bet and Israeli police for people who violated quarantine and actually left their home thanks to that technology.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. So there's two different technologies here, and I thought there was another one that I had heard, but maybe it's all been clarified since then. But also other countries are doing this as well. And then the question is the comparison done on the phone? You've also then got the issue of if the comparison is being done on the phone rather than what data is sent to the phone. So there's all sorts of privacy issues coming up here. So either we'll go to, after this all clears up, we'll go to an environment where privacy is out the window in some sense, or we can actually go, this is a great opportunity for the privacy tech that people have been developing to be used to actually provide services in a way that protects people's privacy. And I think I would like it to be the latter rather than the former, but I suspect given human nature and whatever, it's going to be the former, because once governments have power, they don't like giving it up.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Once you give government power, and that's really one of the most interesting things about this is governments kind of led to the shutdown, and then government is trying to enforce this shutdown further by the overreach into our privacy, by tracking our movements. And that's created a kind of, I want to say, it's created a kind of a challenge. And the laws that we're seeing that are being enacted right now don't have a sunset clause. It's almost like...
Depends on the country. Maybe in America, other countries have a sunset clauses.
So what sunset clause have you seen in Europe?
So in the UK, they've got a 6 month, and then it has to come back to be approved again for the law that's going through today.
Wow. Yes. But 6 months is a really long time. I mean, I think
it's going to be 6 months.
But I think that's going to extend. I mean, look at the time frame. 6 months from now, we're end of March, so that's end of September. Flu season kicks in again in October.
That's another 6 months.
There's another 6 months. By then, it's April again.
Yeah.
Right. And then no one cares about this, so they can literally go into the parliament and make this permanent, and no one would care. It's very similar to what's going on here in the States. People who don't go on congress.gov's website aren't paying attention that while everyone's arguing about this Wuhan virus COVID-19 bailout, there's a law being put together to tax gun sales at 30%, tax ammo sales at 50%, and to require you to be 21 to own a weapon. Essentially in clear violation of the Second Amendment. So I love this because Congress, laws in America make 0 sense. You can drive at 16, and more people die from car accidents than gun violence every year. Mm-hmm. But you can still drive at 16. But you can't buy cigarettes until you're 18. Yeah. But now that you can't drink alcohol till you're 21, and now they don't even want you to shoot a gun till you're 21. So you're responsible enough at 16 to drive a 2-ton car, right? That can kill that kills more people than guns. But you can't have a beer, and you can't smoke a cigarette.
You want logic?
Listen, I keep hearing, and I hate to say this, but I keep hearing of like lawmakers that are getting the COVID-19, and I'm like, let it be all of them. We really do need to elect new leadership. Like, we really need to clean house here. Let it be all lawmakers get COVID-19 so that we can at least get replacements in there that will represent really, what the people want. And right now, no one cares about gun legislation. People care about their health. And we need to address healthcare. We need to address the financial ramification of something like this happening. This is unprecedented globally. This is like the 1918 Spanish flu, man. It's big. Yeah. It's big.
Yeah. But I don't think we're going to get as many deaths as Spanish flu, because that was...
It was 100 years ago.
That was 100 years ago, and also there was issues with most of the population just after the First World War, so people were particularly malnourished as well. So that was particularly...
Well, it was bad timing, but even if you look at this today, you brought up a great point, which is all of our healthcare facilities are underfunded, overworked right now. Even whether you're a socialist country with, sorry, I won't say a socialist country, whether you have a social healthcare system, or whether you have a capitalistic healthcare system, or whether you have a government-run healthcare system, all three have simultaneously failed to deal with this. There's not been one country that's gone this right. And I think that brings into the fact that healthcare is a basic human right, and I agree with that. And we should, and everyone should be afforded some level of what we like to call basic healthcare. But it also brings into light the fact that there needs to be more cooperation between the private and public sector on how do you deal with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Especially, I think, and also to do with resilience. I mean, so let's go back to the cybersecurity thing. Is that what we're seeing that we're not resilient to a shock. Right. And that's exactly the same in cybersecurity. Companies and organizations are not resilient. They don't build resilience into their systems. Everything's run on the cheapest possible way, with the least amount of investment in defense in depth. And we're seeing that in healthcare. We're seeing that when we've got this lockdown, that there isn't, we're not really well set up for something like this, despite it being the number one thing on every major Western economy's, threat register for the last 10 years. Was the number one thing was a major virus outbreak, almost no preparation done. And we see the same in boardrooms with respect to cybersecurity. We get a cyber attack. Oh my God, everything's shut down. We can't cope with this. It's not like we predicted there wouldn't be a cyber attack at some point.
Well, yes, and you're also seeing the business continuity plans. Everyone had a plan for a fire in the office, a hurricane, or a flood, right? And those plans were good for about 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
And now you're in a prolonged period. You're in something that in some countries it's taken a month and a half. I mean, China's been on lockdown since February, almost 2 months. Singapore's been on lockdown since the beginning of this month. South Korea has had some form of lockdown, right? Europe, I mean, the UK is on a 3-week lockdown. India's on a 3-week lockdown. No one's moving anywhere. This is really kind of...
In Belgium, we're here on midway through our week and a half, and I can tell you, after a week and a half, I'm bored.
Well, I don't blame you. I am also bored. I miss being able to go to my favorite coffee shop, Crema Espresso, here in Dunwoody in Georgia, and just having an espresso and an almond croissant.
Do you want free coffees next time when it opens? Is that why you mentioned it?
Well, they're open right now for drive-through, so people can still go by and pick up stuff. So you should support your local business. But I love that coffee shop. It's my favorite place. I go there twice a week, and I work out of there. And the owners there are amazing, and it's a beautiful little coffee shop. And I don't expect free anything because they got expenses. And so as someone who runs his own business, I don't want anyone to give me anything for free because I don't want to give anything for free to anyone to begin with. There's costs with everything, but they are, I always say, like, support local. Yesterday, I will say this from a cyber perspective, business continuity is one thing. I think the other aspect is the work from home, the BYOD policy. Businesses trying to save money by letting employees use their own devices has now come back and bite them directly in the tail end of it. Because now your employees are home with their own devices. They're working from 9 to 5, and then they're streaming Netflix and doing God knows what on those computers after. And you really can't say anything about it.
Yeah.
And that kind of creates a whole level of risk. Now, listen, you're in the encryption business and in key management. How do you feel like this crisis is really going to change the paradigm with encryption? Do you think it's going to impact how people look at encryption going forward? Or
I'm not sure we'll see. Like I said, I don't think we'll see a difference in encryption. I mean, we've already got to a point where almost everything on the internet's encrypted now. So this is we've already got to that. I mean, the issue is in terms of the privacy of encryption that can be deployed for analyzing data while it's being computed on. I think we might see some push there because of this with respect to increased awareness of privacy preserving techniques. But I think generally speaking, we're going to see a lot more interest in key management. I think because just coming back to bring your own devices. Companies are going to have to work on an environment where your corporation is in people's homes. So you're going to have to spread your tentacles, if you want, or your controls out. And this is going to require more encryption there, more control, more key management. It's going to be harder to key manage because you don't have access to all the machines. And so we'll see the complexities of, it's not just the encryption, but the complexities of running the security for a corporation are going to get much bigger because people are not going to go back to working in their offices. The idea that everyone goes back to their offices and everything's going back to normal, no.
So I agree with you. One of the things I've been arguing, and tomorrow on LinkedIn Live, I'll have Jordan Goodman. He's a 40-year Wall Street veteran. Has his own radio show in New York, Money Answers. And one of the things we're talking about is how this is going to change the microeconomy forever. So we've had these gigabyte workers, right? Those Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, this is going to change the way companies employ, pay people, and deal with commercial real estate. I think we're going to see I think this is going to save WeWork. Mark my words, this crisis is going to save WeWork.
It might actually do the opposite. It might go, why do we need WeWork when people can work at home?
Well, I think people are going to, I think to the contrary, why get 100,000 square foot office, right? When I can get 25,000 square feet, and then I can have a WeWork license, so that if I'm based out of Atlanta, but I've got employees in California, and I go to California and I want to do meetings, I'm not going to meet you at your house, but I will do a WeWork subscription and rent a meeting room at WeWork for several hours to meet with my local team in California, and then fly back to Atlanta. I really think this is going to save WeWork. My personal opinion. But I also think it's going to change the way people are paid. I think the 40-hour work week is done with. I think we're looking at 35-hour work weeks. I think we're looking at less pay for less hours. I think companies are going to cut people's pay because now you don't have to account for gas. You don't have to account for mileage. You don't have to account for time on the road. So if an employee was working 60 hours in total, between 50 hours, let's say a 2-hour commute 5 days a week, another 40 hours. Now you can work them 35 to 40 hours from home and pay them less.
I'm not sure we will be paid less, but we're already on 35 hours over here.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, innovation comes from America. I will tell you, I do miss the European mentality of it's 12 o'clock, I'm going for lunch, and coming back at 1:15 after a long lunch.
1:15 if you're lucky.
1:30. It's 1:30, and then at 5 o'clock, 5:30, whenever their shift's over, you could be in the middle of the biggest report on the planet. Pen drops, computers logged out. I'll be back tomorrow. And trying to get someone to stay an extra half hour or 45 minutes is like ripping someone apart.
We have what's called in America, I think, a good work-life balance.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should work like that every single day. I think there's exigent circumstances in businesses that require you to invest a little bit more. And a lot of times in Europe, there's, I won't say everyone in Europe because that's not a fair comparison. I think a majority of people in Europe have an employee mindset, not an entrepreneur mindset. And so what ends up happening is they go, yeah, work's always going to be there. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go, meet my friends at a pub and have a drink. Whereas in the States, we'll finish at 6. And the entrepreneurs, I think the people who really want to exceed and excel in their life, they're going to a networking event until 8. And they don't make it home until 9:30. Right. So there's that difference. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I think there needs to be a balance of two. But, there's also the idea of just let's balance it out. I think this is going to change, like you said, a lot of very different things, Nigel. So many things. We're at a dawn of a new era in 2020. And it's very interesting that it happened 2020, like even the year, just the month it started in, February of 2020. There's a lot of twos in this thing. It's non-binary.
No.
It's very 9/11 was very binary.
Why?
Because of the zeros and ones. 09/11 2001. Only the 9 was the 9 was the only. Was the only
the odd one out? Okay,
right? It was the odd one out, but everything else was binary, zeros and ones.
But this So this is now So now what we need to worry about is when we get to the 30s.
We'll be long gone by then. That's our grandkids' problem, and everyone says we got to think of the next generation. I'm like, yeah, I agree, but let me get through this and make sure this generation survives it to worry about 2 generations down the road.
No, I'm thinking the 2030s. If you say 9/11, then the 30s.
Yeah, 9/11/01. Then we had the market crash in August of 2008. Think of that, August of 2008. Yeah. And now we've got the COVID-19 Wuhan virus pandemic that really took...
But then it should be COVID-20.
Well, I don't know who named it COVID-19. Yeah, I'm calling it the Wuhan virus. You know that. We've had that discussion on Friday. Yeah. You're right. It started in Wuhan. I'm calling it Wuhan virus. Okay. Not calling it Corona. Don't care if call it Corona. Corona is the underlying influenza that comes from people eating weird ass shit like bats and snakes and God knows what else.
Oh, Corona is the beer you have with the Mexican.
I do enjoy a Corona beer, and I do have a Corona in my fridge here, which I may pop tomorrow on my conversation with Jonathan, because I'm probably going to need it when we start talking economic impact of the Wuhan virus tomorrow. It's crazy. Nigel, you and I can go on forever. And I think it was funny because when we did our thing at RSA, we were kicked out of RSA. They were like, RSA is now over. See you next year. We're like, we're not done here.
We're still going.
Yeah. And everyone taking stuff apart, making all that sound around us. But it's always fun to talk to you. It's always great to catch up. And I look forward to having you on again here real soon. And at the tail end of this, when all of this is kind of settled down, to talk about our predictions again. See what something happened. What happened? Absolutely. I totally agree. Well, on behalf of myself, I want to say thank you, Nigel. Thank you so much for being on today's podcast. Lots more every single day this week. Tomorrow we'll be with Jordan Goodman, 40-year Wall Street veteran. If you've got any economic questions about the impacts of COVID-19 or the Wuhan virus, you can submit those now on any one of our social media pages or on our website at cyberhubengage.com. Until next time, folks, I'll be signing out.